Hi, I'm Alan Swerdlow. I'm resident director on Dirty Dancing, appearing at the Grand Theatre at the Marina Bay Sands. Well, it's become very popular now at the moment. We've got a lot of musicals which are derived from movies, and I think it's because of the mass audience. You know, there was a stage when a lot of musicals were derived from books that were popular at the time. Not so many people read these days. A lot more people go to the movies, and that's one of the reasons that has happened. But it brings an inbuilt danger because you've already got a visual image. You read a book, you've got your own personal screen going. You've seen the movie, you know, you want to see those images on stage. Stage and cinema is very, very different. You can do things on movies you can't do on stage. You can do things on stage you cannot do in movies. So it's trying to find a way, a middle ground. With this particular production, which began 9 years ago originally in Australia, people looked at the way of taking what was a simple story but told cinematically, and they thought, let's do it like the movie. So we won't expand the scenes. Scenes in a stage show last much longer than they do in a movie. I think the longest scene in this particular show is about 5 minutes. That's the longest scene in the entire show, but it's a lot of quick little scenes put together like movie editing, and we want that experience. So then it was a case of thinking, if we want to do it cinematically, how do we want the show to look? So that was the idea of bringing in LED screens, projection, and very, very swift moving scenery effects. So we don't have to wait whilst an entire huge set becomes assembled on stage. We literally have scenes overlapping. People are entering from one side of the stage as people are exiting from the other. It's like a wipe in a movie. And it was that. We use a lot of underscoring like you do in a movie. So there's music playing underneath. We also use a lot of very quick effects. So what was it in the movie that caught people's eyes? Well, we'll recreate that on stage. But then, you know, there are things that in a movie, you shoot a scene, stop, everybody goes and changes, has a long relax, whatever, before you do the next scene. Or you shoot the scene 20 times, 100 times until you get it right. You can't do that on stage. So it's a case of finding ways that the actors can move comfortably from scene to scene immediately, do the very quick costume changes, and the costume changes are a nightmare on this production. 15 seconds from top to toe, wig right down to shoes. That's not much time at all, but it just moves and it keeps that effect. But I keep telling the cast, the most important thing, tell the story. You've got to tell the story, and that's what I hope we're doing. I serve the writer. I hope that we do her words justice and we make sure that they come across in the right way, that we don't alter her intention or her feeling, because that's what our job is to do, to make sure that that comes across. It's a blend of both, ultimately. I know that sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but yeah. You know, we're a lot luckier today. You can flip open your laptop, you can Google search a lot of things. But I did a lot of reading beforehand, a lot of books, history of the period. I read up on the civil rights movement in America. I made sure that I knew all those facts before I began working, because you want to be able to feed that information to the cast. I watched the movie more times than I should have, I think, just to get the feeling, not because we were going to recreate it move for move in that sense, but to get the feeling. Know that that's what comes across in that scene. We want that same feeling in that particular scene when we do it on stage. I read and reread and reread all the time before we moved in. And then you work out, there's a particular method. So you break it down into sections and you make sure that you've got all your facts and figures for every section. If I were to show you my copy of the script, It's just this mass of notes and scrawls and ideas and arrows and all sorts of things. I can't even see the words any longer because of what I've written around it. I do stage work because for me it's one of the most satisfying forms of expression. It is so immediate. Each audience takes on its own character, becomes its own personality. So it's a dialogue that actually happens between what's happening on stage, the performers on stage, and that audience sitting without them actually exchanging, but thoughts are going backwards and forwards. You don't realize it, but it is happening. This is an unusual musical in that you don't have the normal situation where suddenly the hero turns to the heroine and when the emotions and the feelings become too much, bursts into song and sings a song about how much they love that person. Here, they dance. We should really call it a dancicle, and it's really unusual because I can think of a handful, maybe 3 other shows that where you have your hero and heroine who dance their feelings out. So that already is a different experience for the audience. Then the immediacy of that story. I think when the audience comes, their mind splits into about 3 different parts. Part of it is their own nostalgia, their own memories of what their first love affair was like, and that's running at the same time. There's their own movie of the film happening in their heads at the same time, if they have seen the movie, or even if they haven't, what they've heard about it. So they're running their own kind of film. And then there's the experience of sitting in a live theater with live actors taking huge chances, putting themselves on the line for you, for the entertainment, and talking directly to you, telling you their story. And that to me is one of the greatest excitements that an audience can have. People coming fresh to a theater who've not experienced something like it. It's like having this huge machinery and production come into your own living room, sit you down and say, we're going to tell you a story that's going to knock your socks off. And that's what we try and do. I'm Alan Swerdlow, and I'm asking you all to please come down and see Dirty Dancing at the Grand Theatre at Marina Bay Sands here in Singapore. It's a terrific show. I assure you, you'll have the time of your lives.